What a victory and what a feeling knowing that the victory bell stays in the correct shade of blue. Duke football over North Carolina, 32-25.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks so much for being here with us today. On today's program, Josh Cox from Section 17 Media is going to be here with us talking about this Duke football win over the North Carolina Tar Heels on Saturday as the Blue Devils keep the victory bell in the right shade of blue. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Take a moment, if you will, watch us each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends, comment down below, as we want to give a special shout out to all of our everydayers out there. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Devils the program that it is each and every day. So without further ado, Josh Cox is here with us, and Duke earns a very impressive 32-25 win over the North Carolina Tar Heels. What a finish. What a game. Happy Thanksgiving week to you, man, as we're reaching the end of the regular season here. Chaos possibly going into this final weekend. Hope you're doing well, Josh.
I am doing well, man. Looking forward to a good Thanksgiving week. And, you know, it's crazy, JJ. You spend months in football off season, like thinking about football season, dreaming about football season, wanting football season to be here. And then it starts and you feel like it's over, you know, like as quickly as it starts. And it's like, here we are, second to the last week. This going into the last week of real football. I think the Army-Navy game or whatever is the week after that, but really the last week before the conference championships. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think. But yeah, Duke got a win after losing 2 straight, got themselves back in the victory column.
And it was a big win. They needed it. And obviously in a rivalry game like that, you're feeling the pressure. You're feeling a little bit of everything. Duke had at one point in the second half a 24-10 lead, felt pretty comfortable. And then North Carolina, give them credit, 15 straight unanswered points, had opportunities to kind of really put Duke away and make it a much larger lead for the Tar Heels than it ultimately was. And then Duke with a gutsy call there at the end. Just all told, what'd you make of just kind of the flow of this football game, Josh? It feels like there was a wide range of emotions as Duke fans were watching this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, credit. I thought Gio Lopez actually played a pretty solid game at quarterback for UNC. I think potentially maybe his best game of the season, and I've not followed them, you know, obviously super closely. But he played a good game. He ran the ball effectively. And got, you know, made the throws when he needed to make the throws. So, you know, give him credit there, give them credit in the second half too, for their defense showing up when they needed to and putting the pressure on. And, you know, so give them credit, but that's where it ends. I gave them credit for about 15 seconds and then I'm done. You know, at the end of the day, the Duke defense made stops when they had to make stops. While they were in no way, shape, or form perfect on the day. They did get to Gio Lopez in key moments, especially in the fourth quarter. And I mean, you know, I can't say anything further than that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, just some really like important plays, man, that like, you know, none of Darian Mensah's stats were eye-opening and none of the receiver stats were eye-opening, but man, Sahmir Hagans made an incredible catch on a 3rd or 4th down. Cooper Barkate, obviously the touchdown to Jerry. And then Anderson Castle, man, like, I mean, Nate Sheppard had a couple of highlight reel runs, but Anderson Castle with the 3 touchdowns was just he was a beast, man. He was, you know, falling forward and doing the Anderson Castle things that we've come to expect this season.
Yep. And then a gutsy call at the end to line it up and a chance to go ahead. And the decision itself, and we'll get to the Pelino of it all. And I thought his comments afterwards were hilarious. And I know Todd, somebody that you know, Josh, and just really cool for him to get that moment and whatnot. But let's break down the decision here for Manny Diaz with it being a 1-point deficit all 3 timeouts left for Duke, knowing if you kick a field goal, it's only 27-25. You could still lose on a field goal from North Carolina. Just the everything that goes into a decision like that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Obviously, Duke relies heavily on analytics, and there's a lot of analytics at play in that situation. You have to take. I mean, if we're honest, and as you mentioned, like I've got a great relationship with Todd. I would think Todd would admit this has not been his most accurate season of kicking field goals, and he had missed one earlier in the game. And so you take that in consideration. You also take the fact that, historically, Manny Diaz would say, I'll trust my defense. He did it multiple times last season at the end of games where he would, take the points and then trust his defense. I don't think this year's defense, I don't think Manny can trust it. And so to me, it made logical sense. And honestly, Todd is athletic, man. Todd is not a slouch. And, he has the speed. And the thing that made it just perfect was the guy selling out for the block. I mean, just selling out for the block off of that left edge. And there was nobody out there. I mean, obviously there was some blocking that helped Todd get all the way to the 1 yard line. And obviously the blocking helped him get to the 1 yard line. But even if he had not gotten any blocks at all, he's still going to rush for 10, 12 yards or whatever on his own out there. And so just an incredible play call. And listen, there was a lot of Duke fans, myself included, our podcast included, that had a lot to say about this special teams unit throughout the season. And their criticisms were, I believe, justified. But you also have to give credit where credit is due. And there's been some positivity on either side of special teams, whether it be on the return game or kind of, in this sort of like field goal opportunity in this fake field goal. So
yeah,
listen, give him all the credit. One trick play earlier in the game did not work on 4th and 1, but this one absolutely did.
Yeah, shout out to the athlete that Todd Pelino is here. I just wish so badly could have gotten that extra final yard to be able to get into the end zone. But fortunately, we've got Anderson Castle on our side and able to kind of punch it in. I loved Pelino's comments after the game. Kind of look, he was talking about the looks that they had a way to check out of it. And then he mentioned kind of conversations he was having with Cade Reynolds beforehand, and then didn't want to talk so much because he said, maybe I was getting into my head a little bit too much. I mean, it was just so pure, him breaking down how much he might have been overthinking it and then knowing I just got to go out and execute.
Yeah. And I mean, that's who Todd is. I mean, at the end of the day, being a kicker, man, is not an easy headspace to be in. And a lot of those kickers kind of shy away from that and don't have much personality as a result. Todd's not that guy. Like Todd, he will talk about his emotions. He will talk about like the things he's going through. And like, it was just so cool for me after following him pretty closely for the last 4 seasons, and getting to know him well and his family well. It was so awesome to me to see him, really, I mean, that was the game-winning play. Obviously, like you said, Anderson Castle ended up finishing it off, but he was actually you could see him make the shift with his hands. It was like he was about to put that ball out and like try to do the stretch for the touchdown. And then the UNC defender got there like just in time to hit him. But like, I was waiting for him to put the ball from his left hand to his right hand and do like the quarterback stretch, right. and that would have been wild. But yeah, what a way to do it, man. And listen, I think Duke fans can live with that. Like, if that would have not worked, it's like, hey, at least you were going for it, man. You were you were playing with no abandon, and like you were making play calls aggressively. And Duke has been aggressive on 4th downs this year, and like that just kind of goes with that same philosophy. And so kudos to Coach Diaz, Coach Infante on that call.
And then let's go to the Anderson Castle of it all, right? An epic photo as well from his performance on Saturday against North Carolina. Finishes with 3 touchdowns. The App State transfer, Anderson Castle, is a North Carolina native himself. 3 touchdowns against NC State. 3 touchdowns against North Carolina. Who knows? Maybe there's a big performance coming Saturday against Wake Forest.
That would be incredible. I mean, he's no stranger to this state. He's no stranger to UNC. I believe he played them twice when he was at App State. And so he kind of knew what he was getting himself into. And let me tell you something. that Duke coaching staff would absolutely sign up for 3 more touchdowns from Anderson Castle. And how wild would that be? But yeah, I mean, listen, he's a grown man.
Indeed.
When he came in the offseason, it was like, okay, this guy has the potential to be the short yardage back. And then honestly, for the first couple of games of the year, you could tell that they were really trying to figure out the running back room, and they had to figure it out. And I think equally as important as Duke figuring out that Nate Sheppard is RB1, right?
Yep.
I think equally as important is them understanding the RB2 role that is Anderson Castle's and when to use him. And the fact that he pass blocks very well. There's been only one game this year where I felt like he did not pass block well. And it was just it's really neat to see Duke utilize that room properly. And here's the thing, nothing against Jacquez Moore. I believe with all my heart, if something were to happen, and you don't wish it on anyone, but if something were to happen, in this Wake Forest game, Jacquez Moore can absolutely come in the game and take on a heavy load. And so like, I think that could absolutely happen. So anyway, happy for Anderson Castle. He's like a married dude. He's like a grown man. He's legitimately. And so like happy for him and his wife and his family and his kids and his grandkids. But anyway, it's just super cool, man. I love it. A throwback. He's a throwback.
For sure. And we talked about it, midway through the season about when we were doing grades for units and whatnot. And you think going into the year, running back is going to be Jacquez Moore. It's even going to be Peyton Jones and not so much what you're seeing out of Nate Sheppard and Anderson Castle. And those two guys have shouldered the load. It's insane where we ended up.
You think that room would have been flipped. Honestly, you really did. And I was, the victim of that. Like I have seen true freshman running backs get a lot of praise in spring ball before, only to never see the field. And so I was like, I'll believe it when I see it on a Saturday in Wallace Wade, and we have seen it. And then, like I said, equally as important is understanding Anderson's role and what he can bring to the table and then putting him in those positions.
Well, and Anderson had the touchdowns, but Nate Sheppard had some runs against North and effective in the screen game as well. Yes. I thought that was huge for him too. So great stuff from him. All right, let's step aside. We'll take a timeout. And then when we come back, we got to talk about all the chaos that's happening right now for the ACC. This is Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. That's right. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and there is no better place to get in on the action. The official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, new customers for FanDuel are getting $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Josh Cox is here with us on the show today talking about this Duke football team and their win over North Carolina. One game left for the Blue Devils on Saturday against Wake Forest. If Duke wins, they're 6-2 in the ACC, 7-5 overall, and a 6-way tie is possible, man. Like, this is real news that, wow, we ended up here.
We went away from the divisions, but man, if the Coastal Division has not just had its mark on this season of ACC football, this absolutely reminds you of the old school Coastal Division. It is pretty insane. There's a tweet out that shows all the scenarios of how each of these teams clinch. And then it even says more information on how the BC, Syracuse, and UNC, NC State games affect the strength of schedule tiebreakers. And he said, we'll release that later on. So like, even with all of the things that are out there, there's still some scenarios where the strength of schedule and common opponents and whatnot, comes into play. So it's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild. Going to be a fun weekend.
Just for Duke to even be in this position at 7-5. I mean, this would not have been possible if Georgia Tech had won on Saturday against Pitt. And now the ACC has 3 one-loss teams with Virginia, who's got to lose at Virginia Tech. You've got SMU in the mix, who's going to be taking on Cal, who just fired their head coach, Justin Wilcox. And then one more in the one-loss category is Pittsburgh, who's going to be taking on Miami. So Duke's path to the ACC Championship game, a win plus a Pitt loss plus an SMU loss, or a win plus a Pitt loss plus a UVA loss plus a UNC win, or a win plus a Pitt loss plus a UVA loss plus an NC State win. Is that easy enough to keep up with for everybody? I mean, here, let's start with this. Just win.
Just win. Just win. That's all you can do. Listen, if you don't end up making the ACC Championship game, at the very least, a 7-5 record over a 6-6 record improves your bowl standing probably. It improves your payout from the bowl. You know what I mean? There's all good things that come from winning a football game. You win the state championship yet again. You sweep the state. There's a lot of things on the line here. But I will say, the simplest thing that could happen for the ACC is that Virginia and SMU win their games.
Yeah.
If Virginia and SMU win their games, nothing else matters. None of that other stuff matters. And so, I don't know who the ACC wants to see in. I think that they would probably want to see Miami and Georgia Tech, but that's going to be really difficult. I'm not even sure if that could actually happen with all the things that need to go. I think some of the things that need to happen for Miami to get in would actually work against Georgia Tech getting in. So it's pretty wild. What is crazy about the scenarios is evidently if there are all 6 teams that wind up 6-2, the Duke Blue Devils actually would be the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I saw that. That just doesn't make sense. But a 7-5 overall record, man, but 6-2 and you're number 1.
Bro, that would be
the math just maths that way, man. When you look
evidently,
at
man,
all the
evidently
tiebreakers. Yeah, I think you're right though. I think this is beyond the Duke discussion, so I won't stay long here. But it feels as though with the ACC, you want to see Miami win on Saturday, giving Pitt their second loss, taking them out of the title game conversation. But then SMU and Virginia winning so that they can play an ACC championship. The winner there automatically gets into the college football playoff. And that the hope is Miami with 2 losses has done enough with the Notre Dame win in the non-conference to where Miami could be that second team to make the 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, in a really weird way, Miami winning and not playing in the ACC Championship game probably benefits them.
Right.
And so, that would be the absolute best case scenario is that the ACC gets one of those automatic qualifiers in Virginia or SMU, and then Miami also gets it. Will be very interesting to see because of the Miami win over Notre Dame being early in the season, how much that's going to sway that committee. While Miami has a national following, it's not nearly the national following of Notre Dame, which will be very interesting. And then, you know what, man, there's this last week of the regular season, and then there's championship games that can clog all that up and mess all that up, open up a couple spots, for teams to get into the playoff, or close down a couple spots for teams to get into the playoffs. And so, you never know.
We'll see how it all comes together. So Duke, again, just has to take care of business, just has to win these games against Wake Forest on Saturday. And it's good to have Darian Mensah on your side at that quarterback spot to be so calm, cool, and collected. What's interesting, though, is that his 2 kind of worst games statistically have been the 2 that we just finished, right? I mean, in a win against North Carolina, that was a season low 175 passing yards for Darian Mensah. That's really strange.
Yeah, it was strange. It was a weird game. But it's like they say with the Duke UNC game, though, it's kind of like you throw all the stats out the window and you have a game where we've had games in the past where Grayson Loftus went nose to nose with Drake May 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Good
nothing
point.
is Grayson Loftus, but like Drake May is sitting here, potentially he's like second in MVP considerations right now. I think odds he's number 2 behind Stafford in the NFL. It's like 2 years ago, Grayson Loftus as a true freshman went head to head with him. So this is that kind of game where it's like, yeah, I mean, Darian has obviously put up great numbers this season. I don't think it's anything like schematically that they've like figured out about Darian. I just think that it's been 2 tough weeks and defenses have just, played well. And I don't think they've discovered the secret of Darian Mensah and are stopping him. I just think that things aren't falling, the way that Duke wants them to fall. And so Wake Forest defense is good. And so it's going to be another test, for sure.
So go to the other side of the ball, because we talked about, the defense is not where Manny Diaz wants it to be. And that's one of the reasons you might make a decision like that, to go for it and get the touchdown and whatnot. You're going to need them if, to win this game on Saturday against Wake Forest, and then possibly beyond that. It's been and injuries certainly played a part, like in that linebacker room throughout the course of the season and whatnot. But it's been wild kind of to watch some of the struggles throughout various games that Duke's defense has had.
Yeah, I mean, you can't overstate the injuries. I mean, Kendall Johnson comes back for this game, but Trey Freeman's out, so it's it was great to have Kendall Johnson back, and I thought he played well. But you were without Trey, and Trey's got a history. I mean, last year Trey was the he ended the UNC game last year, and so you're missing him. And then in the secondary, JJ, I don't think that we're talking enough about who Duke lost last season in that secondary. There's only one returning starter in the secondary, and it's Chandler Rivers.
Right.
Cam Bergeron, low-key, under the radar. Cam Bergeron was extremely good last season. And I don't know that Duke fans, and it maybe even the staff, understood how valuable Cam was. And then Jalen Stinson, he had his quirks about him, and he had things that he did not do well, but he was steady. Yep. Undersized. He was steady.
That's what I was going to – even being when you think Jalen Stinson, unfortunately, undersized is one of the first things that comes to mind, and that didn't really slow down his production at all. He was incredibly steady, like you said.
Yeah, and then, of course, the injury with Terry Moore this year, and Duke fans thought that Terry was going to be back, and he's not, and that it just is what it is, and it's unfortunate. And then over on the other opposite side at corner, Josh Pickett. I mean, Duke fans had their beef with him, and he may have not have been an all ACC cornerback, but man, he could man up in coverage, and Duke and Packy didn't have a problem putting Rivers on a man and putting Pickett on a man, and Duke can't do that this year. When a corner not named Chandler Rivers gets in man, bro, it is not pretty. Yeah. And we saw it Saturday night in Chapel Hill. It's not pretty.
Yep.
And so the secondary, even with the additions of Caleb Weaver, who's played well, Jaden Francois, who's been fine, but man, it's just been tough, man. Deshaun Stone has been exposed a little bit in coverage throughout the season.
Yeah,
that defense, man. Even if the line was great, it's still struggle, man. That second and third level.
So hopefully we'll be ready to go on Saturday for Wake Forest, and beyond. The grand scheme of things, it doesn't feel like a lot has to go right to get to our kind of major tie scenario, and Duke playing in the ACC. Never say never, but most importantly, go get a win, go get your 7th victory of the year, finish with a winning record, and not let the bowl game come into question with determining that winning record. That's what's in front of Duke football here. So, Josh, always great to see you, man. Tell us a little bit about the Section 17 media.
Yeah, absolutely. So we cover Duke athletics, and obviously we're in that in-between season right now where football's still rolling, basketball is starting up, and so we'll be at Cameron and or Wallace Wade or wherever that's going on. But follow us at Section 17 Media on X, Instagram, Facebook, and then we have a Facebook group that we're still keeping the title of Duke Football Talk because we're just talking football in there. And then, YouTube, man, obviously. Appreciate all you do, JJ. I know that it is that getting on here every day and talking about Duke, even in these awesome times of the year, man, it's still something you got to schedule and have the character to do, man. I hope your listeners appreciate the work that you put in, man, and I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, man.
You too, man. Have a good one.
All right, that's Josh Cox joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. And thank you to all the everydayers out there who make the show possible. Your support means so much to us. Go support Josh and his team at Section 17 Media. They do a really good job covering Duke athletics year round. All right, that's going to do it for our show here today. Again, Duke basketball getting set for a fun one Thanksgiving night against Arkansas. We continue to get you ready for that one throughout the course of the week. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.